Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're in finance, accounting, you absolutely know that the financial reporting process, well, it's everything, isn't
It
it?
really is the core function.
And like most pros, you've probably spent years honing some kind of automated framework, maybe in Excel, maybe using DAX and Power BI.
That's usually the case, yeah. Built up over time.
But here's the big question we keep hearing. If you move over to something programmatic like Python, do you have to throw away all that structure, that auditability you worked so hard for, just for code?
That's a really common fear, and it's understandable, but honestly, the answer is no, definitely not.
Okay.
That's really the main point from the sources we looked at today. We've got this sort of migration map laid out, and it proves the underlying logic, the accounting rules, the need for structure. It's universal.
So the tool changes, the syntax is different, obviously.
All right, completely different syntax. But the method, it
Yeah.
stays locked into those same 4 rigorous steps.
Okay, let's unpack that. Our mission today, really, is to show how that fundamental 4-step framework for, solid, scalable financial automation, whether you're clicking around in Power Query or writing Python in a notebook, it can be perfectly mirrored and maybe even improved.
Exactly. That's the key word, I think. Enhanced. This framework, it's your checklist for making that jump. It kicks off with step 1, building that proper data set. You need that solid foundation.
Right.
Then step 2, setting up the data model, usually thinking Star Schema. Step 3, translating your calculations, your DAX measures, essentially.
Okay.
And finally, step 4, getting that dynamic reporting output like cube functions allow.
Got it. So this deep dive is really, for you listening, if you already get data modeling, you understand measures in Excel or Power BI.
Yeah, if you're comfortable there.
And you're curious how that know-how maps onto Python commands, how you get the same accuracy, but maybe with big gains in speed and scalability too.
That's precisely who we're talking to. Let's show you how it translates.
All right, let's jump right into step 1 then, the proper data set. Every finance person knows this stage. It's data prep, right?
Oh, yeah. Hours and hours of data prep.
In the Excel world, this is Power Query territory. You take that messy, wide trial balance, you know the one, each month is a column,
The classic format.
and you have to unpivot it, turn it into that long, skinny transactional format. It's the grunt work, really. Cleaning column names, fixing data types.
Making sure numbers are numbers and dates are dates.
Exactly. Avoiding that garbage in, garbage out trap that kills your report before you even start.
And here's where we see a big difference, architecturally speaking. Power Query, it's very visual, very step-by-step. It records everything you do. Python, well, specifically using the Pandas library, it gets to the exact same endpoint, that long format data frame, but it does it through code, through what we call vectorized operations that run in memory.
Vectorized operations. Okay,
Yeah.
why does that matter to me, the accountant trying to close the books?
Speed and scale, massively. Power Query might chug along for minutes if you have a 1,000,000-row trial balance.
Yeah, it can take a while.
Pandas, it can often handle that in seconds because it works on the entire column, the whole data set, all at once. We use simple commands like dftv.columns.str.strip.str.lower to clean up all the headers instantly.
Okay, fast, real good.
But the real win is how quickly you move from raw data to something you can actually calculate on, like a matrix ready for computation.
And a huge part of prep is bringing in the structure, right? Not just cleaning the facts, but merging it with the chart of accounts, the dimensions, linking things up.
Absolutely crucial. And in Python, we do that with a merge function. Simple line of code, dftb.merge, dfcoa, how I left. It links the trial balance data frame, dftb, with the chart of accounts, dftoo, using that common account number. The result, this Python data frame. Conceptually, it's identical to that clean long table you'd feed into the Excel data model, but the key difference, it's sitting there in your computer's RAM, totally optimized for lightning-fast calculations. It's the best foundation you can build, performance-wise.
Okay, so step 1 gives us this super fast, clean foundation. Now we need to structure it, right? For analysis, for speed. Step 2, data modeling. The Star Schema.
That's the one.
In Excel or Power BI, this is visual. We drag lines, connect tables, fact table in the middle, dimensions like calendar, chart of accounts surrounding it. We explicitly define those relationships.
Yeah, you build that model visually. Now, when you bring this concept into Python, the approach shifts. It's less about visual lines and more about an in-memory model using derived columns.
Derived columns.
Yeah, so instead of needing separate physical tables for all your dimensions, we actually create the dimensional columns we need directly onto our main data table, the one we might call DF model.
Huh. So, okay, instead of building a whole separate calendar table and linking it, you just use Pandas functions to add columns for year, month, quarter, maybe month name, right onto the transaction data itself.
Exactly that. We pull year and month straight from the month end date. And critically, when we merge in the chart of accounts details earlier, we instantly get columns like flush section, balance sheet, income statement, and account type. So these new columns we just created, full section, month, year, they become your dimensions.
Oh, I see. So they function just like the dimension tables.
Functionally, yes. It's the equivalent of the Star Schema in terms of what you can do. You can group by them, filter by them, aggregate using them, just like Power BI lets you. But it's all achieved through code and ready for immediate number crunching.
That's interesting. It almost sounds less breakable than the Power BI relationships. If I accidentally delete a relationship line in Power BI, my whole model can just stop working.
That's a really good point. It is more robust in that sense because the dimension, the category, is baked right into the data row itself. There's no separate link, no foreign key relationship that can get severed by accident. The connection is hard-coded when you do that merge. It's permanent for that data set, and it's traceable right there in the code.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which brings us logically to step 3, the calculation logic. Now, for anyone deep in DAX, this is where the magic happens, right?
Absolutely. It's the brain of the operation.
DAX measures define how you calculate things. MTD, YTD, prior year comparisons. Often using that powerful calculate function to manipulate the context, the filters.
DAX is incredibly powerful, no doubt, but it works with this idea of an implicit filter context. It figures a lot out based on where the measure is used.
Okay.
When we move that logic to Python, we have to be more explicit. We need to translate that implicit context into clear conditional logic using tools like NumPy and Pandas. We basically program the accounting rules and time intelligence directly.
Okay, let's take a tricky accounting example, something that really relies on that period context.
Right.
Like the retained earnings roll forward.
The classic one. Yeah.
You have to roll the net income from prior months into the current month's retained earnings. How does Python handle that? Is that linkage as solid, as visible as defining a DAX measure? What if you skip a month in your data load?
It's extremely robust, I'd argue, precisely because we have to spell out the conditions explicitly in the code. We use conditional logic, maybe np.where from NumPy, or just straightforward Boolean filtering in Pandas.
So you write an if statement, essentially.
Pretty much. For that retained earnings roll, the Python code has to literally say, if the account is 3110, retained earnings, and if the month number is greater than 1.
Right.
Then the value for this row must include the sum of net income from all the previous months in this period. You code the dependency.
So you're directly controlling which data gets summed based on accounting rules using conditions.
Exactly. And this unlocks a huge benefit, especially for finance teams. Auditability and version control.
Ah, okay. Tell me more.
Well, in DAX, the measure definition lives inside the Power BI file, maybe separate from the data loading steps. In Python, that calculation logic, that retained earnings rule, is an explicit part of the script that generates the final numbers.
Right, there in the code file.
Right. And that script, you can check it into Git or any version control system. Every single calculation, every assumption, every data transformation step is logged, traceable, auditable. You can rerun the exact same report from 6 months ago instantly. That level of control, it's beyond what standard Excel offers.
Okay, the logic is explicit, auditable, version controlled. Love that. So once we have that calculation engine built, we need to show the results, right?
Yeah.
Make it usable. Step 4, dynamic reporting.
Yep, got to display it somehow.
In Excel, the high-end way is using those specialized cube functions like cube value and cube member. You build a static report layout, link it to some input cells.
To drop down for the month.
And boom, the numbers update when you change the month. Dynamic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, in the Python world, we don't have cube functions per se. The equivalent relies on interactive widgets, often combined with web frameworks.
Widgets, like graphical elements.
Yeah, think drop-downs, sliders, text boxes. We use libraries like IP widgets. So imagine we create 2 widgets, drop-down elements in our code. One lets the user pick period 1, say, the current month. The other lets them pick period 2, the prior month, for comparison.
Okay, I get it. So the dropdowns in Python replace those linked input cells in Excel. They let the user control what the report shows.
Precisely. They drive the output.
But how does that output look? Is it just code spitting out numbers, or can it look like a proper financial statement?
Good question. That's where tools like Jupyter Notebooks and, crucially, frameworks like Voila come in. The user picks the periods using the widgets, Those choices feed the underlying Python function, which instantly recalculates the balance sheet or income statement based on the selections. Voila then takes that whole interactive notebook and transforms it into a standalone web application, a dashboard.
Wow.
So it looks polished, professional. It totally mirrors the dynamic feel of a pivot table refreshing or a cube function report updating. But it's all generated from code, and you can share a web link instead of emailing chunky, potentially insecure Excel files around. It really opens up access while keeping the calculation logic tight.
Right, so we've walked through the 4 steps: building the data set, modeling it, coding the logic, making it dynamic. But any accountant listening knows the job isn't done until it's validated.
The moment of truth.
Section 5, validation, ensuring everything ties out. In the old manual world, this is where teams burn hours, checking assets, liabilities, plus equity, painfully.
Oh, I know that pain well. And honestly, this validation step is often the thing that completely sells a finance team on using Python.
Really? Why?
Because instead of setting up complex VLO upis, multiple pivot tables, layers of conditional formatting just to check that one balance equation across, say, 12 months.
Yeah, the usual reconciliation nightmare.
Python automates that check across every single month you have data for, simultaneously, with just a few lines of code using grouping and summing.
Wait, hang on. You're saying Python can check assets, liabilities, plus equity for all 12 months at once, basically instantly.
Pretty much, yeah.
I know finance teams that block out days during the close to manually tick and tie pivot tables for exactly that check. How does that look in code? Is it complicated?
Surprisingly simple, actually. You leverage the grouping power of Pandas. You group your main data frame DF model by the date column. You sum up the amounts for assets, liabilities, and equity within each month.
Okay.
And then you just create a new column to do the math. That final check might look something like a summary balance checks, summary assets plus summary liabilities plus summary equity. It runs in like a fraction of a second.
And any month that doesn't balance.
Won't have a 0 in that balance check column. It flags instantly. It's not just faster. It's a fundamental improvement to your internal controls. It's huge.
That is huge. And building on this dynamic, validated structure, our sources mentioned it makes complex multi-period reporting much easier too.
Absolutely. Think about modern FP&A reports. You always need MTD, QTD, YTD, maybe prior year comparisons all on one page.
Data requirement, yeah.
With Python and widgets, using something called widgets.interactive, you can easily link 4 or 5, however many period selectors you need, to the same core income statement or balance sheet function. It just recalculates for each selected period.
So it's like having a superpowered 4-dimensional pivot table in Excel.
Kind of, yeah. But generated directly from a single auditable script. You know all your time calculations, all your definitions are perfectly consistent across every single period shown on that report. No risk of one pivot table being set up slightly differently from another.
All right. So wrapping this all up, let's bring it back to the core message for you listening. Financial reporting automation, at its heart, it's about structure. It's not really about the specific tool you use.
Right. If you get the importance of clean, long-format data, if you understand structured data modeling, if you know how to explicitly define accounting logic, and if you see the need for dynamic, user-driven reporting, then that knowledge, it transfers directly.
And what that really means for your career, for your skill set, is that all that time you invested mastering the Excel or Power BI way of thinking, it's not lost, not at all. It's portable.
Exactly. You're just translating those fundamental requirements into a new language, a new syntax.
And by doing that, you're tapping into these massive advantages, the speed, the scalability, the enhanced auditability that tools like Python bring to the table.
That's the payoff. And while these 4 steps nail the core financial statements, the balance sheet, the income statement, the sources we looked at hinted that the real cutting edge is just beyond this.
What's next?
Well, once the numbers are automated and validated, the next logical frontier is automating the whole reporting package. Think about automatically generating footnote disclosures by linking back to the journal entry-level details. Or using Python speed to populate standard reporting templates. Or even, and this is where it gets really interesting, using AI text generation models trained on IFRS or GAAP rules to draft the narrative disclosures based directly on the validated financial data coming out of your Python model.
Okay, that's definitely heading down the rabbit hole.
It is, but it shows where this structured, programmatic approach can ultimately lead. It opens up possibilities far beyond just getting the numbers right faster. It's about automating the entire chain.